In today's modern society, there is a strong masculine epidemic where being a virtuous man has all been but forgotten. The few that remain virtuous are rare and rapidly declining breed. Everything in this society is dependent on feelings. People only choose to participate in an activity if they feel like it. This mentality has become so normal now that it is in fact one of the biggest reasons that could interfere with your growth. For instance, if you tell a person who's overweight to go to the gym, they'd probably tell you that they don't feel like it. Living a life oriented by feelings is the biggest hindrance to leading a virtuous life. Listen to that once more. Living a feeling-centered life is the biggest killer of a virtuous life. If you base your life decisions solely on your feelings, you'll constantly be pursuing temporary happiness. This endless pursuit of instant gratification leads to a dark void where people lose sight of concepts such as hard work and discipline, and instead focus on doing whatever makes them happy. I want you to understand the idea that the goal in life is not to do what grants instant happiness, but rather to focus on doing what's right. Only then will you find true happiness. This is the easiest explanation of leading a virtuous life. Moving back to the example of an overweight person who has never gone to the gym or worked out in their life. If they are a person driven by their feelings, they wouldn't do the right thing, which in this situation is losing weight. On the inside, you feel hollow, and the reason is that you know you should be working out, as doing so would fix the void inside of you. But instead of doing so, you stimulate yourself. You choose to sit on the couch and binge on movies and shows instead. And when the movie ends, you still don't feel fulfilled. And of course, why would you? So you decide to go to the local McDonald's, get some food. But that doesn't satisfy you either. And so you look for something else to make you happy, effectively putting yourself in an endless cycle of instant gratification. Now, picture in your head what life would be like if you chose to live a virtuous life instead. If you weren't driven by your feelings, but rather by your virtues instead. You would do what's right. You would go to the gym. And after months of doing the right thing, you would have found true happiness. Every time you looked in the mirror, every time you walked past girls, every time you walked into a room and you felt confident. That would be the true happiness. Unlike the instant gratification of activities like eating at McDonald's or binging on Netflix, these fleeting moments of happiness are nothing compared to the true happiness mentioned earlier. So going back to the idea that the goal of life is not to be happy, but rather to do what's right. Only when you do what's right will you be truly happy. Now comes the question. How does one become virtuous? Where do I even start? Is there a tactic to being more masculine and virtuous? The solution here is to simply start by keeping your word. Whenever you say, just follow through with that. In today's culture, one can easily fall into the trap of trying to please other people. For example, imagine that you tell someone that you'll meet them on a certain day, like, okay, I will see you tomorrow. But you never do, and you lied just to keep them happy at that moment. And like that, you hardwire this into your brain that you don't keep your word. And as you continue through with this pattern, your self-esteem will get so low that you will start hating yourself. It is an actual fact that most people get depressed for this very reason. Therefore, if masculinity and manliness is what you want, then the foundation that you need is building up more self-respect. Reflect on this. If you don't respect yourself, why should anyone else feel obliged to do so? Why should they treat you any differently from a homeless junkie who says that he needs money for clothes but instead spends it on drugs? So the first step is to keep your word to yourself, but also bear in mind that keeping your word is a habit, which is just like seed retention that you must practice and build a habit for over time. Going too extreme right away is not the solution either. Let's say for the sake of the argument that your daily wake up is 11 a.m. and you know that you should get up earlier to be able to be more productive. But don't just outright tell yourself to wake up at 6 a.m. already, because it will be a big leap and most likely you won't be able to wake up at that time. Since you told yourself that you will be waking up at 6 a.m. and did not follow that, your brain will be taking note of this self-deception. The next morning, or for the next few weeks if you keep this up, where you tell yourself to wake up at 6 a.m. and not keep your word, what turns out is that consequently, your self-esteem and self-respect are once again spiraling downwards. So start gradually and give yourself a realistic time that you know will be manageable, and for the next few weeks, you will be able to wake up at that like 9 a.m. Before going to bed, say out loud, I'll be up at 9. And then continue to wake up at this time for at least a month or so you no longer need an alarm to wake yourself up in the morning. Throughout this month, your subconscious has kept a record that you have been following what you believe in for the entire month. You will feel more fulfilled and satisfied right away. Why? Because you are traveling the path of virtue. Once getting up at 9 a.m. feels natural, tell yourself, I'll get up at 7 and resume this cycle with the other activities as well. Learn the skill of keeping your promises to others as well as yourself. If you know that you won't be able to do something, then don't worry about hurting people's feelings. Just express what you plan to do. If you know you must do something, then take action. Planning your entire day when you wake up is one of the best tactics that will help you build up this habit. By writing down everything you plan on doing that day, you have committed to carrying out those actions. It is essential that by the time you go to bed, all those things have been ticked. So don't write down something that you know you won't be able to achieve by the end of the day because you could always do it the next day. So start gradually, but stay on the path because your words hold power and your reality catches up to what you think and what you say. Just picture this for a second. Who is the Lord of our universe? The God says in the Bible in Joshua chapter 21 verse 45, not one word of all the good promises that the Lord had made to the house of Israel had failed. All came to pass, so keep in mind that living a virtuous life simply means to do what God does and to live a life in accordance to what He has told us to live. If God never compromises on His word and always does what He says, then it is right for us to do the same. By the way, brothers, don't forget to subscribe and hit like for the algorithm to see the next best way to level up as a man. Watch these videos here.